I chose the coldest day of the year to go over some 3D printed stuff I found. Only thing that's keeping me alive, I washed the car last night, and you can see that's all the soap from the car wash. It just froze on there. These windows don't take it well. Oh, that didn't sound good. And hopefully the heater fan's not too loud because it's pointing right at me. Alright, so I got a little bag of 3D printed stuff that I've kind of collected over last couple months, like looking at stuff that other people posted. So everything in this list is not done by me. I didn't design any of this, I just printed it, and I'll be posting them in the description so that anyone can print them. And everything in this list is completely free. It's all like free community shared parts. So as long as you have some kind of access to a 3D printer, these should be fairly cheap. So I suggest trying these out if you want a cheaper alternative to whatever you're looking for. Sneak peek for all the parts in there. Alright, first one is actually a bonus one because I don't have the link to this part. Someone gave this to me who was also given it from someone else, so I have no idea who made these, but I thought I'd share it as a bonus number 6 part, and in case you have access to a 3D design software, you can probably make this yourself. And these are side markers. They are a little scratched up now because they've been sitting in my car for a long time. In case you have no idea what I'm talking about, this side marker right here, as you can see. So mine just loosely put in just for the shot, but so it replaces this part. If you actually have to plug it in, it actually lights up. This one obviously is just like a full solid replacement, so you can't actually put a light bulb through this. But I was actually looking to make this anyway because one of the clips on the back of mine broke. I was scared it was gonna fall off because they broke like a day before track day. I didn't even try them on until today, and I just realized it's a bit different. So you can see this is designed with all this kind of fitting part on the top, which would, I think, screw onto the fender, if I'm not mistaken. I forgot what it looks like up in there. With this one, it looks like you can't actually put them on with this metal bracket here. But I'm not gonna cut my bumper up. So what I'm gonna do, just to get this to fit on, because I think I'm gonna make my own again so it works with my bumper, but just to get this to kind of fit on and see how it looks, I'm gonna just chop this off right now. I chopped off all that bit, so I'll let you know now. I already put this on the car. It fits horribly. No offense to the person who made this, but I will also agree that this is very difficult to make. It's hard to replicate these curves. Alright, I will take this. Not bad, and honestly, let me step back a bit, but I mean, it does look pretty good. It's better than a hole. It might look a little weird now because I have a fisheye on this camera, but it's not too bad in real life. But there you have it. I just want to share this as an idea. I know I don't have the file for this one, but if you have the ability to remake these, I think it is a good option because some people do like this kind of tinted effect. Now moving on to the parts that I actually do have links for. First one up is this guy right here. So this is a gauge pod that actually installs right in your vent. It's missing the fins on the outside, and you can see some wires in there. So you first got to take out this outside trim, and then this guy can go inside. So the one I have here is designed for 52mm in diameter gauge. So this one can slide all the way in. I need 2 hands to push it in, and then this will go right in. So if you go back into my channel, you'll actually find a whole video of me installing this into here and doing all the wiring and everything for this gauge pod. So you'll get a better idea of what I mean when I say this kind of goes into here. And I'll overlay a little clip of me kind of doing it. Nice. You can see it's a pretty good spot. Like, you can see it. It's slightly lower than the main gauge, the main cluster, but it's a pretty good height when you're looking out. Full blast. Actually, it's not that bad. And you can see that this is actually a very nice spot. So when I bought this gauge, this is an oil pressure gauge. I really want it to be in a place that's not too obvious. And so this is really nice. The reason I'm switching this over now is because I really like to have my stuff as close to my eyes as possible. I'm moving mine over here. I think I have an image of the prototype, and this is something I'm designing myself, so I get to kind of place it exactly where I want it. And I also get the functionality of the fins in the vent back. Coming up next, on the passenger side, way down here, it's gonna be a little dark. Alright, this is a bit of an awkward spot for me. Big guy in a small space here. Right behind this, you can see this hole right here. This is the sound tube that comes in from the intake of the car, and what that's doing is just adding kind of engine noise into the cabin, so it's supposed to sound cooler. Most people don't like the sound of it. It just makes it really loud in the car. So what people like to do is block that off. I found this little guy that can plug it right up. A little hard to see because everything's black in here, but this is just like a simple plug that's the exact diameter of that pipe, and you can just shove this in the hole. You can push it in. Technically, I don't think it completely cancels the sound fully, but it definitely reduces it. Now, as a lot of people already know, for this thing, this is not any new trick, but you can actually use this thing right here. This is from the cigarette lighter port that's in the glove box. You can take this out and luckily, is pretty much the exact same diameter and size, as you can see. So if you still have this in your car, I would just use this. But my dash cam is permanently plugged into it, so I can't use it for anything else anyway, so mine is actually usually plugged with this. I just printed this just for the sake of the video, but I would actually use this. This one works in the exact same way. There you go. Inside the car, I was explaining what the sound tube was, and it's this right here. So this is the intake of the car into the engine, but then you got this tube literally just going to the car. So what I have, take two. I was trying to get to the end, I almost dropped again. This time I have this plug, which is just a more extreme version of that plug. So that plug is just blocking off the end of the pipe over there. This plug helps you plug the hole right at the intake. So this lets you take this entire pipe completely off, because if you're going to plug it and not want that sound anyway, you can just take off all this piping to kind of clean up the engine bay. And this would technically work better because I'm sure that plug over there isn't completely canceling out all the noise, but this one over here definitely will. You can see it's like a little ribbed cylinder, which I'm sure will just help with the grip in there. And then this one specifically has the 86 logo, which is kind of cool. Don't mind the outside because the print messed up a bit because I printed it this way, and then this layer didn't really have anything to hold on to. So I think if you're printing it, I think it does better this way. With this clamp loosened, this thing can come off. You can just unscrew and take the rest of it out if you want, and then you're left with this open hole over here, and you can drop the plug in there. And then tighten up this clamp. Now let me put a disclaimer on this part. I don't know how the airflow is affected by this thing. I mean, this is not really functional to the engine running, but I didn't really look up exactly if this affects anything. I know a lot of people do it, and companies sell plugs like this to do this exact thing. Second thing is, this is a 3D printed part made out of plastic. I'm just sharing the idea and the file. I don't 100% know if this is completely okay for this piece to kind of handle whatever goes on in here. And that being said, I'm actually gonna remove this. I'm not leaving it on my car because I don't want to have to go and remove this entire piping right now. I'm just not in the mood for that. I might actually do it sometime in the future, but I need to kind of look into this a little more before doing it. But I think this is a good idea because honestly, I don't want that sound in the car anyway too, and it looks a lot nicer when there's less stuff in the engine bay. I actually already did the ending clip for this video, but I think this next piece is going somewhere in the middle of the list. I really just didn't want to open the garage door. Trunk's a bit of a mess. This is just stuff that's got to go on this summer, except this thing's for sale. This next part is way back right here. So this car has this button that locks the trunk. It's never happened to me, but apparently a lot of people have something in their trunk that ends up hitting that button and then the trunk locks up. This is a pretty common part. I think a lot of people already know you could 3D print this. You can print out this guy, which is just a cover. You can still press it with, I guess, sticking your finger through there. I'm not sure yet. I'm gonna try it out. But it just stops for anything sliding and then hitting the button by accident. Out of all the pieces, this one fits the nicest. It's like a nice tight fit. I don't know if it's supposed to go a little more deeper, but mine just kind of stopped there. So it is a little more difficult to hit that button, but honestly, I don't know how many people actually use this button. Let me see if my pinky finger fits in there. Oh, it does. There you go. Your pinky finger might fit in there, or if you got small hands, maybe all your fingers do. I probably will never use this button, but it's nice that that's there so it can never get hit. This is the final piece I have. Getting back in the car and coming down here. So if you look at my fuse box over here, you can see a bunch of wires. So those are all the fuse taps that I use to plug into my gauge. And if you look at these fuse taps, they actually stick out a lot from the fuse box. This right here is the original fuse cover box. You can see it's nicely labeled and all that. Because of the fuse taps in here, this is useless, and now this is kind of just open. It's not a huge deal. I mean, the only thing I worried about was like my leg kicking it, but it's tucked up in here, so it really doesn't happen. But just to make it clean, I have this piece. So what this is that exact cover, but way taller. So you can see this has two kind of clips right here, which this has as well on the inside, and then on this side is just one, and there's one. Hard to see, but there's a little thing there. So what you can see here, one, this thing is way taller, and second, it has this gap here. So have wires sticking out. Now one obvious thing you're missing is that little label here, so you could probably take this off if you're careful, or just print another one to make it look nice. So previously, I think it was this way, and then with this one on, single side. Wait. Hold on, what the heck? Okay then, as you can see, I now have two pieces that are the opposite of each other, because I just realized I think the file that I found is the flip direction. So I don't know if it was made for a right-hand drive car and that's why it's flipped, but I'm gonna put a little disclaimer beside the link that you gotta flip this if you're doing it for a left-hand drive car. So you can see this is the one I made first. I mean, if for some reason there are taps that go the other way and the wires stick out that way, then I guess this is fine. But yeah, just pay attention to which way your wires stick out, and you might have to flip the file over.
Oh, there we go.
But the reason I made this whole video was actually because of this thing. This was actually the piece that I was looking for. I knew someone made this online, so I was trying to find this. I ran into all the other files and I was like, oh, might as well make a video on them. So realistically, this is probably the only one I'm actually using, because the rest of them, I mean, I don't really need. I just wanted to share those ones. I did use the gauge pod, the vent gauge pod the most. The rest of them I'm probably just going to give it to someone because I don't think I really need it. But I still think it's pretty useful because I know people do all those kind of mods anyway. So if you have access to a 3D printer, this is like the cheapest way to do it. So that's pretty much it. All the links to the STL files to 3D print are in the description. Fingers crossed that those are the original creators. I'm sorry if I linked like a repost or something, but those are the ones I found and those are the ones I used. And I hope some people find these links helpful.